Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to the Bourse Report. Well, today it's budget day, of course. That's the hot topic for both the wider population, but also for investors. And we're going to take a very quick look, a primer of sorts, in our presentation today at some of the key points to look out for as the Honourable Minister of Finance prepares to deliver his budget speech for fiscal 2023-2024. We're going to look at revenues, expenses, the deficit, and what investor opportunities might lie ahead in the coming fiscal year. So let's get straight into it. And we're talking about, firstly, that revenue side of the equation. And as investors and the wider population may be aware, revenue forecast rather will revise downwards from 56.2 odd billion to 55.2 odd billion for fiscal 2023, which has now concluded. At the 9-month fiscal period, which was at the end of June 2023, revenues actually came in at around 40.5 billion. On the heels of higher energy revenues, this data, of course, provided by the central banks, data statistics, higher energy revenues compared to that 9-month period of 2022, $21 billion versus 18.6 billion, with non-energy revenues relatively stagnant, a marginal 0.7% decrease, 19.5 billion compared to 19.6 billion in that prior comparable period. So on the revenue front, it seems that we are ahead of schedule, or the country is ahead of forecast relative to the 9-month period of 2022. However, overall, for the fiscal period in 2023, those revenue estimates were in fact revised downwards, as mentioned. Now, much of that may have come or emanated from lower energy prices in the main, which is out of the control of the state and certainly dependent heavily on market factors. As we take a look at the central bank's energy commodity price index for fiscal 2023 thus far, we can see that that index moved from a level of around 165 to just about 100 before some marginal rebound in the latter 2 months of fiscal 2023. Again, what this indicates is that the prices on average, or the weighted basket of prices for energy and energy commodities, including natural gas, crude oil, and derivatives, including methanol and ammonia, would have experienced some significant correction during the course of that fiscal 2023 period. On a not so positive side, production has fairly languished over the course of fiscal 2023, with projections or estimates at the start of fiscal 2023 for natural gas production, for example, averaging 3.0 BCFD, or billion standard cubic feet per day. That has not materialized, and as at year to date, or as at the 9-month period, in fact, production of natural gas has averaged just about 2.616 billion standard cubic feet per day, so just under 10%, or just over 10% lower than forecast estimates for production. So that may weigh on revenue projections for fiscal 2023, as we'll hear later today. On the expenditure side, well, we can see that expenditure was actually revised upwards by 3.8 odd billion for the fiscal 2023 period at that half-year or mid-year review, from the 57.7 odd billion to 61.5 billion. And we can see at that 9-month 2023 point that expenditures were at around 40.4 billion. So in terms of how it compares to revenues, or revenues generated at that 9-month period, it's pretty much even keel, with most of that expenditure going towards current expenditure in that grayish color, 38.1 billion of that 40.4 billion accountable or accounted for by current expenditure, with just about 2.3 billion accounted for by capital expenditure. Now, when we take a slightly deeper look into that current expenditure mix, we can see that overall, as a percentage of total expenditure, transfers and subsidies continues to accumulate the lion's share of spending. And we can see that as a percentage of total expenditure in that yellow line, that transfers and subsidies as a percentage of that total expenditure has been trending upward. At that 9-month period, it did account in terms of total expenditure for just under 60%, whereas in fiscal 2018 and 2019, it was just around 52%. So certainly more as a proportion being spent on transfers and subsidies in the current fiscal period. Now, overall, with that higher expenditure projection and lower revenue projection, we can see that there may be a wider than projected fiscal deficit. In fact, it's forecast to be around 6.3 billion if those forecasts are realized. And that is fairly significant widening from the initial 1.5 billion projected at the start of the fiscal year. And that, of course, is going to be funded by a couple of measures. Of course, the drawdowns from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund is an option if the eligibility criteria for drawdowns are met. Government borrowing is also another option, which may come as good news to investors who are looking to access government or government guaranteed debt. Of course, in both TT dollars and the higher interest rate space of international borrowing currently, and asset sales or asset monetization. And there were quite a couple of opportunities that were mentioned in passing over the past few years, which have not really materialized as yet. We'll be looking on investors certainly to see if anything is made mention of or announced in the upcoming fiscal package. Now, markets overall seem to be somewhat hesitant in 2023 thus far. There seems to be a little bit of lower confidence with the All Trinidad and Tobago Composite, All Trinidad and Tobago Index down 7.7%, and the Trinidad and Tobago Composite Index down just about 9.2%, suggesting there is that degree of lower confidence in the financial markets, in the state of the economy, etc. And of course, investors will be looking on keenly and listening on keenly for any opportunities, any changes in sentiment that may come out of today's fiscal budget or budget package or budget delivery. So, of course, we would take this opportunity to wish the Minister of Finance a very successful delivery of his fiscal 2023-2024 budget. That's it for this week's edition. For more information, you can give us a call at 226-8773. Email us at invest@boursefinancial.com. And of course, you can check out all of our research absolutely free on bourseinvestment.com. And you can catch this article in today's business section of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian newspaper. Stay safe. Hope we have all have an enjoyable budget day, and we'll see you next time on the Bourse Report.